Okay, so I'm going to talk about My Summer by Sarah Rotzel. So first I'm going to start with my career options. So when I was little, I always wanted to be like my mom. And my mom was a doctor, so I decided, hey, I'm going to be a doctor too. When I was little, I would just study all the time. I loved to read. I did tons of math and I would study and go to school and always get A pluses and do a ton of science. And I dreamed of going to med school one day. But then when I got older, I realized, wait, I don't even like math at all. It's bad. I really do not like it. So then I talked to my mom about it, and she said, well, you always liked fashion. Why don't you do something in fashion? And that was probably one of the greatest ideas I've ever gotten because I do love fashion. It's one of my favorite things. And growing up, I always watched the show Friends. And for any of you that have watched it, Rachel's job is fashion merchandising. And that's what I decided that I wanted to do because I knew that that would make me really happy. So this summer, I went to vacation in California, and there they had this one huge store that's Brandy Melville, one of my favorite stores. And just looking at all the fashion they had there was so much fun, and I just loved it. And I literally had heart eyes. So when I got back to Minnesota, I did my interview with the women who run the mainstream boutique, and I loved it. It was one of the most eye-opening things. And I started looking at fashion colleges like Parsons in New York City and schools in LA and Madison for business schooling. But who knows what I'm actually going to do. As for things that made me happy this summer, so the first thing that made me happy was my choice book, which was Unbroken. Sorry for the typo there, and that was one of the best books I've ever read, but we'll get more into that next week when we discuss it. Second thing, I love to dance. I dance at a studio called Kincaid Dance Industries, and my goal for this year was to make the best team possible. So this summer I worked really, really hard. I was there all the time, and finally the results came out. I was panicking about it for like 5 days straight, and finally I found out that I'd made the best team, and I was so happy. I actually cried tears of joy. I was so happy because my hard work had finally paid off, and it was one of the best feelings ever. Next, there's the challenges. So the first one is that my grandma, who I love very, very much, passed away. And this was really hard for me because I loved her and I miss her so much. But eventually I realized that she was in a much happier place, and now I'm happy and I can deal with it better now. My second thing. So this one is a little bit harder and I'm sorry to share it with, I really want to get it out. So at the beginning of summer, I was not very happy. I was in a really, really dark area. All my life I'd grown up and I really just wanted to impress everyone. I had this mindset that everyone has to love me because that's always how I grew up. And soon I kind of felt like not everyone did love me and it made me sad. And soon I kind of exaggerated it and I thought that everyone hated me. But soon I was able to get that out of my head. And I know that everyone does not hate me. And eventually I just kind of came to the realization that not everyone has to like me. And I kind of just took some time to myself this summer and reflected a little bit. And now I went from being a content Sarah to a really, really, really happy person. And I am me. And that's really the most important thing that I had to learn is just I can't let other people control my life, and not in the way that like they were telling me what to do, but more of I need to make my own decisions and my life choices all by myself. And to much of my surprise, I actually did really well with that, and my sad self soon turned back into my happy Sarah. And happy Sarah is a lot better than me being sad. And by this, I don't mean that I don't need people. I still need friends just as much as everyone else does. And I love my friends so, so much, and I owe them so much because they deal with my crap all the time. And I just am so thankful that they were able to do that. And now I'm happy again, and I love it. Last of all, we get to talk about Sophie's world. So the first thing we're kind of supposed to discuss is about good and evil. And really, I'm not sure what I learned about good and evil or what's the difference. Really, what I learned is there is no good and evil and there is no right and wrong. Really, what there is there's just different opinions. And, I think that's right, but I'm not completely sure. What I learned more of is about perspective from the rabbit's fur at the very beginning. And what I really learned is that in order to understand things fully, you have to go in the mindset of other people a little bit. Next point. The world will become a habit. Do not grow up to be one of those people who takes the world for granted. And I just really, really loved that quote. I don't really know why, it's just more of, it tells you to appreciate everything, and I think that's really important in life. Last of all is Kierkegaard. Hopefully I'm saying that one right. He says that 8 plus 4 is 12, and that's just kind of a known fact. It doesn't really matter in the long run. That's not what you're going to reflect on in the end. What does matter? What does matter are the things that you can't really know for sure, like whether or not someone loves you, or for example, if there is life after death. And that's where the whole faith thing comes in. Sorry, this is just a little bit religious. But you have to have faith whether a person loves you and whatever you believe in. For me personally, it's God, but for you, it could be anything. Another Sophie's World quote is, because what matters is not whether Christianity is true, but whether it is true for you. Again, there is no right versus wrong. There is just what you believe in.